Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
Hello. I don't know if you guys saw me bopping. I'm always bopping when I hear the commercials and the show opener. But at any rate, welcome back to another episode of The Whole Living Show. We are glad you are here this Wednesday evening. We want you to join in the conversation tonight because tonight, as always, we have an amazing guest waiting backstage. But to start this conversation off, we're going to be starting with what's happening in the news today. And my guest just happens to be from Tennessee. But I wanted to talk about the recent school shooting in Tennessee. And I wanted to come from a little bit of a different perspective. I know that it is quite devastating that, we have 3 babies out there. And I know they were 9 years old. So technically they weren't babies. But listen, kids to me are babies. I don't care how old they get. 3 babies out there that lost their lives and 3 adults. And it is always tragic when somebody decides that they are going to take the life of someone else. But I wanted to come from a little bit of a different perspective because I wanted to think about the young lady who decided, because as they are saying in the news, that this is premeditated, that she planned this out, that she purchased 7 guns prior to actually going to this school and shooting people to death. Now, here's the thing. It was premeditated, and they also mentioned that she went to this particular school. So I want to know what happened, right? I'm challenging this whole situation because, yes, sometimes people have mental breakdowns, but I really want to understand why. And of course, we won't get that story, but sometimes you have to take a look outside of just exactly what they're telling you on the news and say, well, what could have happened to this particular young lady in that school? Why did she decide to target the school? What took place when she was either going to school or maybe if she went back there for something, we just don't know. But I'm curious about that because she planned it. It wasn't a random act where she just went crazy one day and decided that she was going to go there and shoot up the school. It was something that she planned over time and purchased 7 guns in the process. So she was really thinking about this. So I just wonder what happened. And I hope that story comes out. And it doesn't justify by any means what she did. Not at all. It does not justify taking somebody else's life. But I always wonder what gets a person to the brink of going in and deciding that they're going to take the life of somebody else. So, and as we mentioned on the Fem Talk show last night, that the police handled it as quickly as possible, and we're grateful for that. That no more kids lost their lives, but we definitely want to pray for the families who lost their loved ones, and just explore. I hope that the authorities explore what potentially happened to this particular young lady and why she did what she did, because we really do need to understand when people are going in and they're doing these things. We want to understand why. And then we need to change the gun laws too. We mentioned this last night. There needs to be some stringent rules around who can purchase a gun, particularly in the South. And I'm going to say that because I'm originally from the Northeast, and I am now living in North Carolina in the Southeast, and the gun laws are a lot more lenient than they are in the Northeast. So we need to practice safer methods of allowing people to get guns, and there should be stricter assessments on people's mental backgrounds and reasons why they want to purchase a firearm. So I just wanted to mention that. We're going to get our guest in here because she is from the Tennessee area, and see what she thinks about this as well, and if she knows anything about the laws out there when it comes to purchasing a gun. Oh, and I'm going to ask her from a different perspective too, because I'm about to read you her bio. But for what she does in her life, she needs to make sure that she is staying safe as she is servicing her clients. So I want to introduce to you the amazing Toria Howard. She was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. She went to Michigan State University, where she graduated with a bachelor's degree in supply chain management in 2003. After graduating, she decided to take her talents to education, and she received a master's degree in education from Wayne State University in 2007. From there, she moved to Champaign, Illinois, where she taught high school English and coached girls basketball, my favorite sport, from 2007 to 2009. After leaving Champaign, Illinois, she moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where she got married to Ronnie Howard. She inherited three princesses and had one of her own. She received her master's in operations management from the University of Arkansas in 2015. And after 15 years in education, and we're going to get into this with her, why she decided to change her career, she quit to pursue her dream in real estate. She started her real estate investment company, Exquisite Dreams Properties, in July of 2020. She became a real estate agent in January of 21 and started coaching people in financial literacy. And I love that she adds this part to it because you need to have your finances correct in order for you to purchase property. And she got that. She started doing that, in March of 21. She added commercial and business funding to her business to expand her reach in supporting more business owners. And she is looking to grow in serving more people and developing neighborhoods that were once forgotten. And I love this, everybody, because I had the opportunity, I met her on Clubhouse, so I've had the opportunity to hear her speak. She is a powerhouse. And she is definitely focused on serving people. She does that on Clubhouse all the time and in that community. So we are going to bring her in. I want you to give a virtual round of applause for Mrs. Toria Howard. That's right. Put your hands together. Hello, hello, and welcome.
Like, clap for me, yay! No,
that's right. You can clap for yourself. We are supposed to celebrate ourselves for sure.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Tracy, for allowing me on this platform. I am just so enamored with this opportunity to be able to expose my passions for life at this point. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you decided to come on and share who you are because I get to hear you on a regular basis, but we need to let everybody else know who Toria Howard is. So I'm grateful that you decided to come on. I want to get into a little bit of the backstory because you got a lot of education under your belt and decided to go into education. So tell us a little bit about, that journey and then how you decided to transition into real estate.
Sure. So, I did graduate from Michigan State University with a supply chain management degree. But during the time where I was at school, 9/11 hit. So that slowed down the transportation, procurement, supply chain industry for at least like 4 or 5 years. So by the time I was able, graduating, because it was such a devastating loss, and it was still recouping, I wasn't able to find a job. So I found a job as a substitute teacher. I never even thought about teaching as a profession, and I enjoyed it. I love being around the kids, and it was high school. I was 22 teaching juniors and seniors, so it was interesting.
Right.
So, I decided from there to go ahead and get my master's. That's just what I do. Like, anytime I tackle a new opportunity, I educate myself and get the necessary, certifications, degrees, or whatever it is to, make sure that I am, up to par with what I want to do in that, make a huge impact by making sure that I'm educated enough so that I can, bring forth everything that I can in that. So that's how that transpired into that. Substitute teaching became a love of teaching. I was able to obtain my teaching license 2007, and I ended up moving to a small little town in Champaign, Illinois. So it was a very different environment. I went from an all African American school to a predominantly Caucasian school. So it was a different change.
So I have to stop you for one moment because talk a little bit about that transition in particular and the challenges that you faced, going from one to the other.
It was just a culture shock for me because I was still young, at the time as well. So I really never been in an environment besides being at Michigan State like that. And it was more or less, it was challenging because, I had to acclimate myself into a new city, into a new culture. And in that city and in that school, they were basically embracing the LBGT community at that time. And that was the first time I ever been in a school like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of things that we had to, make sure that we did properly, all of that. And all in all, they were still just like our children, though. In the Black community, a lot of them were, had challenges, but you did have the ones that, were, in, because I taught the honors writing class, and then I also had, a lower level class as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it just showed me how, we really weren't that far from each other.
Mm-hmm.
The educational system was not just broken for our students, but for them too.
Mm. Okay, and that's interesting to hear, right? That you have those same challenges in a different environment, in a predominantly Caucasian environment. I know coming from New Jersey, and I was in a predominantly Caucasian school system. However, when they got results, the results were coming from the parents advocating for the children. So I
Right.
don't know if you saw different sides of that, but let's get more into your story. So tell us now, take us a little bit, fast forward a little bit on your transition from education now to saying, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. What prompted that?
Yeah, so I taught high school English, for like I said, for 15 years, and during that time, I taught 12th graders, and it was very difficult to witness every single year. It just did something to my spirit to see how broken our students were at that point of their life,
Mm,
and how they were being forced into areas in which they were not going to be able to succeed.
mm,
So what I mean by that, a lot of the students that I taught were reading on third and fifth grade level in the 12th grade.
wow.
And they still, made them take the ACT. They still made them fill out college applications, knowing that they weren't going to get accepted, feeding them all these different type of dreams. And, I'm just speaking for my situation. It might be different somewhere else. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
speaking for what I've witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just bothered me to the point where I felt like I was a part of the problem. And anytime I spoke up about that,
Mm-hmm.
it became a problem.
Mm,
So, and I just felt like, okay, this is not really meant to help our children. This is a broken system that people are not trying to fix, and people that stepping in to try to fix it, I got, bounced around a lot,
mm-hmm.
because of that situation. And, I just couldn't take it anymore. Like I felt like I was literally a part of the system that was literally and figuratively killing our kids.
Yeah. Oh.
And I just couldn't be a part of it anymore. That's just my story on that. And
I,
I had a passion for real estate.
yeah.
So
I love that you said that, because most people dare to say, right, that the education system is broken, especially when we throw so much at, people in this country to say you have to go get this education so that you could go get this job, right?
right.
So I love that you say that. You're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to delve into education. You're gonna have to come back on that one because
Don't let me go down the rabbit hole, because I will. And I don't at this point I don't care who gonna fire me. I work for myself. So
exactly.
we can talk about it.
Exactly. We're definitely gonna have to have a show just about the education systems, particularly in this country. But so talk about real estate. Why real estate?
So my father was a landlord,
Mhm,
and I watched him when I was younger. My dad always had multiple streams of income.
mhm.
He worked at Chrysler for 30 years, because I'm originally from Detroit. So what up, though, to all my Detroit people? And he was a mechanic on the side. He flipped cars. Like before people were flipping cars, like
Mhm.
really like now. My dad was doing that in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
And he had properties. So I was always around just multiple streams of income.
Mhm.
And I really didn't realize it
Mm,
until I got older. And I just thought back like, wow. And I used to love going to the properties, going, inspecting them with him, because he was very handy and
mhm,
doing that type of thing. And I just loved the way it looked when, things were beautified and transformed.
mhm,
And I was like, you know what? That's what I want to do. In
mhm,
order to improve this broken system, we have to get people back into these neighborhoods that were once forgotten, that nobody's paying property taxes for,
mhm,
that the schools are dead and dried up because nobody's paying property taxes. Nobody feels safe because there's no homeowners in
mhm,
those neighborhoods. Everybody is leaving. So I wanted to be a champion of bringing people back into these neighborhoods
mhm,
and property taxes, bringing our schools back into our communities, so that our children can, grow up like I did. I walked to school. A lot of our children get bused miles away just to get to, if their parents cannot afford to go to a more affluent area, they're getting bused miles away or getting driven miles away from their home.
Yeah.
And you got latchkey and all these different type of things. We would walk home together as a community.
Yeah.
It was like 10 of us that walked home all together. So, I wanted to bring that, hopefully in my heart, I wanted to bring that same type of thing back and revitalize neighborhoods, especially here in Memphis, definitely in Detroit, and any other place that I see fit. But those are the two main places because Memphis and Detroit both have a basically an affordable housing problem. Especially here in Memphis, when people are still making $9 and $12 an hour.
Wow.
And the average rent is $1,200.
Wow.
You know how much house you can get with $1,200?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want people to realize that home ownership is attainable. Start where you are, and there's nothing wrong with starting where you are and building up from there.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So talk about that part too, because the financial literacy piece is huge, and you don't often find I shouldn't say this, but there's a lot of realtors out there that are not concerned with the people if they just don't have that approval, right? So to be able to educate people so that they can get there, right? Because a lot of times people just don't know what they don't know, right? So talk about that piece and why you're so passionate about the financial literacy piece of it.
Oh, that's the good part, right? So, I'm an educator at heart. That's one of my talents. I know how to take things, analyze them, synthesize them, and put them back out there for people to understand. I've been doing it for so long. I even did it as a child. Didn't realize it, but that's one of my talents. So one of the ways that I have taken on this initiative, because I saw the need. Because when I first became a realtor, it was so many people that came to me that was lost, that were broken. Like, I want to buy a house. I don't know what to do. And I didn't want to be that person to be like, well, go get your credit fixed and come back. I wanted to provide a solution without having to, actually, because I can't actually fix credit in the state, but I work with a company, United Credit Education, who does that for me. But I'm still an advocate, and I'm still, basically an accountability partner for my clients. And I learned a lot about credit that, the average person or realtor, would not know to tell their clients. I know what the credit profile needs to look like. I know exactly what you need to do. And I felt like it was just my duty, because it was just so many people crying out. Now, do they take the advice? No, not all of them.
Right.
But I still feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, because people need to understand that you cannot have generational wealth without the generational knowledge. And you have to learn how to manage your own finances before you start a business. I wish somebody would have told me that. You have to be able to manage your own finances in order to be able to get the things that you're out here seeking, that you see on Instagram and on these reality shows and all of that.
And let me interject there. Half the time, that's not real anyway, right? Most of the people that are really wealthy are moving in silence.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and people need to understand what net worth actually really means. It's the assets that you own. It's not the money in the bank. It's your cash flowing assets that's going to continue to, bring forth that money that you need in order to create generational wealth. Land ownership. My family, my dad's side of the family owns 100-acre farm in Virginia. My grandmother made sure that none of us would be homeless. They were sharecroppers. My grandfather and my grandmother were sharecroppers, and they acquired this land for us. And she put it in a land trust where nobody can sell it. So if something goes wrong, we always have somewhere to go. And that's what a lot of people need to acknowledge, that it's not about just what you're doing right now, but what legacy are you leaving for your family? And land ownership, home ownership is where you start.
And oh, God bless them for recognizing that, so long ago, that you need to have this land kept in your family, because a lot of people back then had land that had it stripped away from them, right? Because they just didn't know. So the fact that they put it in a trust, at their age, and when trusts weren't popular and people didn't really know about them, God bless them for that, because now you have legacy in your family. So I love that. It sounds like, from your grandparents and from your dad, that these things were subconsciously, given to you, right? Like they
Yeah.
things that you saw and were in your subconscious, and to help you move forward for you and your own children.
Yes. I mean, now did I practice it correctly all
Mhm.
the time?
Right,
No.
right,
Did I make some mistake along the way? Definitely. Have I
right.
had to repair my credit multiple times? Yes, I
Mhm.
have. I've had 3 bankruptcies. I tell
Mhm.
people that all the time. You're not
Mhm.
by yourself.
Mhm.
I might look like this now, but like
Mhm.
my pastor says, don't look at what I have on. You should have
Mhm.
seen what I wore.
Yeah.
I wore that badge of shame where I went in places and they ran my credit and I used to be looking like, knowing I wasn't going to get approved or
Is it
praying,
gonna come out okay?
you know? So I know what that feels. I know how it feels to sit in a car dealership for hours trying to get approved
Mm.
because they're running your credit, 20, 30 times to try to find somebody.
Yeah.
I know how that feels. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why I have empathy for people because
Mhm.
I suffered that embarrassment and I'm not afraid to admit that.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's the best teacher, right? And that's how you serve best too, when you have those experiences. So, what made you decide to call it Exquisite Dreams Properties?
Oh, well, you know, I should have left off the properties part. Didn't know that. But here we are 3 years later.
Mhm.
But I'd love to play on words, right? I'm an English teacher. English is always my favorite subject. So I'm a wordsmith. So
Mhm.
I love words. So me and my partner at the time were trying to figure out because what we were trying to do was beautify and
Mhm.
make things pretty and
Mhm.
make things attractive again. So
Mhm.
like we didn't want to use pretty or beautiful. That was just something that was just, ordinary.
Mhm.
We wanted something extraordinary. So one day we was just sitting down and I was just thinking and I was like, exquisite. Like when you think of exquisite, it
Mhm.
means like you think of glamour, you think of, glitter, gold,
Mhm.
diamonds, like you think of like the top echelon, whatever,
Mhm.
it is. So, that's what that part of it came from because we wanted to transform and
Mhm.
make it beautiful and pretty again in these neighborhoods and dreams because we know that a lot of people are dreaming of home ownership and want to obtain home ownership.
Yeah.
They think it's just a dream. And
Yeah.
we want to, our initiative is to make those dreams come true.
Mhm.
So that's how it came together.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love that you add the dream part to it too. And talk a little bit about that too when it comes to, you know, having dreams. Because I've heard you speak about this a little bit on Clubhouse as well, but having those dreams and, seeing them come to life, really, right? Talk a little bit about that and what that means in, your area and what you're doing for people currently.
So it reminds me of when I used to teach
Hmm.
and my students used to get that aha moment and you
Hmm.
see their face light up
Hmm.
because they learned something that they never thought they would know or they accomplished something that somebody told them they would never achieve.
Hmm.
So that's what it makes me feel like when I'm talking to people in this space because it's basically wasn't taught to us that how to obtain real estate for real,
Hmm.
you know you how to use and leverage credit, was learned by whoever we were around our environment, and most likely it was told that credit is bad, credit is terrible, use cash, put the cash under the mattress, all these other things.
Hmm.
I need to put your cash under the mattress, all these banks are closed.
Right, right.
But it was more or less that part of it when I see the clearing happen.
Mhm.
When they realize, because they always have a wall up. and I have to break through it. And I've done it many of times with very difficult children. So I know I can do it with adults. I can do it with children. So, I just know that once they break down that wall and their mindset is changed, they can actually implement the methods that need to go forth. Because if the mindset doesn't change, the dream can't come to fruition.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to get the wall down.
Yeah.
Push through that and say, okay, now here's the plan. Now they can follow the plan. So, for example, I had a friend, and you heard me tell this story here recently in Detroit. She just closed on her home on Friday, but when I met her a year ago, Toria, I'm not gonna ever buy a house. I'm gonna buy everything with cash. I don't like credit. All these nevers, don'ts, not all of these things that I said, Leanna, stop. Listen to yourself. And I told her how credit is supposed to be used, and she had that aha moment because we was on a Zoom, and it was like her face lit up, and she got it. And 6 months later from that conversation, she saw her finances change.
Wow.
And she was like, I'm ready to be able to purchase a home. Now it took her 4 more months because she had to save. And that's another thing that people are missing too. They have a lot of incentives to buy homes, so we're missing out on a lot of money. Have savings. And so it took her 4 months to save the money that she needed for her program. In less than a year, she's a homeowner.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. And I was going to ask you for a testimonial, but that's an amazing one right there. To get a person from the point where they're just like, nope, no, I'm not doing it, so against it just because of, what they've heard or seen in their own life to, having a moment where the light bulb goes off and they're like, I can actually do this. And I'm sure you had her dreaming again and, got her to the point where she saved her money. She got her credit in order and, got a home. So I love that story. I want you to tell us a little bit.
The dream is further now.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not stopping here. That's the point. Like, you don't have to stop here. This is just a start. And I didn't even tell her that. She got that on her own. So.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to just mention something because you just lit up when you just talked about her, like extending that now in her life. And knowing that you just helped her be able to think different and now have dreams, right? Really, really have dreams to achieve things that she really wanted. I love the way you lit up. So you could just tell that you were just ready to help people get it together and start dreaming again. So again, everybody, Exquisite Dreams is what the name of her company is called. So if you are looking to buy a home and if you're looking to extend your dreams into home ownership and further and great credit, let's put that out there because you need good credit. And let's mention, right? Like, when you talk about the education of things too, and you think about people, the moguls, the real estate moguls out there, right? They don't use their own money. They don't ever say, I'm taking cash out to buy property, right? That is very rare. So talk a little bit about that and how to leverage the credit when you have the right credit for property ownership.
So there's many different ways that you can buy properties. I know a lot of people preach like you can do it with no money, no credit. You can, but you have to get with somebody that's very skilled in that area. And, you can do, seller financing and all those different types of strategies. But if you still don't have the money or the credit to back you when things go awry, you're going to lose that property. So I always teach my clients to understand that getting that credit score up, and I'm not the bare minimum type because you only need a 640 to purchase a home, but that's like getting just by. That's a C- to me. And we're not doing C- credit. We do A+ credit. So getting that credit to a 760 is going to take some work. And you have to be able to understand it's a process and it's not going to happen overnight. So getting that 760, what it affords you are better interest rates, better terms, and lenders are going to be able to give you more money. Even if you are doing commercial properties, you'll still have a better term on your loan, even though those are short term than the 30-year traditional loans. But the whole point is to get better terms.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get the better terms, you're paying less.
Yeah.
So for example, somebody that has, it doesn't matter if you have a 740 to an 850.
Mm-hmm.
But you want bare minimum to me is a 740 because you could teeter totter during the process and then your interest rate will change.
Mm-hmm.
But a 740 to a 850, it's the same terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell my clients get to a 760 just in case they, you know what I'm saying, something happens during the process, because sometimes it happens. You drop a few points or something, so doing that, and then that can be from somebody has a 640 to a 740 or 760. That's a whole 1% interest rate change, almost, sometimes 2, depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you're talking about a 30-year mortgage. You're talking about $200,000 to almost $300,000 more than a person that has better credit over those years.
I gotta stop you, because listen, she just gave you some numbers. Now, if you didn't understand before, she just put the numbers out there. She just put the numbers out there. So just listen to the difference in what 1% to 2% makes. It doesn't sound like a lot when you put it into the percentage, but when you say I'm gonna pay $200,000 to $300,000 more on a home because I don't have the right credit and have to pay a higher interest rate. Come on, people. I need you to get with Toria to get your credit correct so that you can get better terms, so that you can live well, right? Because we're not out here trying to just get by anymore.
Right.
We're not doing that anymore. You need to live well. So she gave you the terms. She said 760. She said 740, but she said get yourself up to that 760, because when they start to run your credit, even if it is soft, your credit score will drop for a little bit. It'll go back up, but you want to be able to have that wiggle room. So I love the advice that you're giving here to people. But I wanted to mention the numbers because it's huge because some people, they go into it and say, oh, 1% is really not that bad. Let's go ahead and do that. But when you think about that over time, you're paying, you could be investing $100,000 to $200,000 to $300,000 in something that's going to give you a return on your investment versus spending it on a mortgage when you didn't necessarily need to. So thank you for that.
Well, I would say this: if it's a higher need and you have to hurry up and get into a home, and that 640 is what you need, and that's what you, because some people just have dire situations. I'm not saying that don't do it. I'm just telling you that it that you can, it's better to have better terms up front, but you can get better terms after the fact as well. Actually owning a home helps your credit, because it's not a revolving, it's not a revolving credit. So it's it's an installment loan. So as long as you're not late, that boosts your credit. And then once you get that together, fix your credit, use that, then you can refinance and get better terms. So I don't want people to be like, oh, she said no. Some people have different situations. I understand that. Minimum for first-time home buyer incentives or home buyer incentives is 640. But use the house to get better credit.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's better than paying, 8% or however it is. That's like natural average when you're talking about 640. But you have lenders that's still doing 3% and 5%. So get with your local lender. But it's better than paying 100% to somebody else. I got a friend in Florida who paid $50,000 in rent last year alone.
Wow.
$50,000. So I tell your audience to do this. Look at how much you paid in rent last year. If you know you pay $1,200 a month, times that by 12. Look how much you made somebody else rich. And think about that down payment, because that could have been your down payment.
That's right.
And $15,000 to $20,000 in Memphis is what they're giving for first-time home buyers. And if you paid that much in rent, you could have had a home.
That's right. That's right. I love that. I love that. So I want you to think about a question. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but I want you to talk a little bit about, what's happening with the banks these days. We've got Silicon Valley Bank, we got First Republic, and the banks are borrowing from banks, and what that means for your industry and for individuals that you serve. So just think about that question. We're going to come right back. Everybody, listen, don't go anywhere. You do not want to miss the last part of this. You do not want to miss Toria. And we're going to get into that question right after this commercial break.
Imagine a verdant paradise that stands as a convergence of worlds, a living temple of native wilderness, a place where the full potential of inherent human and earth magic can be seen, felt, and understood. A space that attracts the brightest and best of educators on the leading edge. A place of permaculture designed for the benefit of future generations.
And we are back, everybody. If you saw that commercial, that is right here in beautiful North Carolina near the Asheville area. So if you are looking to release and do some self-care and you want to connect with nature, you can go to Mandela Springs. So look it up and take a little vacation for yourself. So we're back with the beautiful Toria Howard from Exquisite Dreams, and we are talking about everything real estate and credit and how to get your life in order when it comes to home ownership. So before we went to the break, we started to talk about, I asked the question about the banks and what's happening with the banks now, and the banks pretty much going under and needing to borrow money from other banks. Want to know what that looks like for the real estate industry and even for individuals who are looking to purchase a home. What do you think is going to happen now with the interest rates, with the bank's ability to mortgage people, right? Because of what's going on in the industry right now.
Man, I know it's tough. And I mean, banks, has happened year upon years upon years before we were even born.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why a lot of people in our community don't trust banks, and understandably why.
Mm-hmm.
But you use banks to get what you need and then you get out, basically. You don't hold all your money in one bank.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the wealthy people do. They have bank accounts all over the place because you just never know. You have to buffer for uncertainties.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just holding your money in bank accounts. You can do different investments. Investment accounts. I know people are running away from the stock market, but the thing is, that's what they want you to do. Because if you think about all of the things that I took a stock class, I'm not an expert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you what I've learned so far.
Mm-hmm.
But, people are running from, the stock market when you got Google that's, under $100 right now. Google was at like $2,000 per share at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Apple, all these big companies that basically, went all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're investing in AI technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the big thing. So that the stock price is going to go up at certain point. That's what it's made to do.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody is telling people to stay away from the stock market, but it's people buying up all those shares because guess what? When they go back up again, they're about to be rich all over again.
Yeah.
Because it has happened time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how most of wealthy people, became wealthy because they knew when to buy.
Yeah.
And it's in a down market.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for real estate. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So spreading your investments around, learning about, the moving averages in the stock market, knowing where to place your money, because all you got to do is pay attention to the money, follow the money. Where are the money people putting their money?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you should put yours.
Mm-hmm.
I watch a lot of CNBC. I read a lot of articles, and I read about these companies and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then finding high yielding accounts to put your investments in. Life insurance, people leave that out. You have the IULs and all these different life insurance that give you living benefits that you can use right now, just like a bank account without any interest.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's how you combat it. You got to spread your money around.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that too, right? Because you don't want to put, you've heard the term, the cliche term, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, this is what she's talking about right now. You got to be able to spread your money and invest your money. And we have a mentor that says, don't invest what you can't afford to lose, right? You want to make sure that right. But, just be smart about it and spread the money around and put it in some things that are going to give you a return. But real estate is not going anywhere.
Never.
Right. Right. So it's always a good idea to invest in real estate. So talk about it from that perspective. Do you deal with investors also who are looking to, purchase properties that they can get a return on somehow? It depends on what it is, but, get a return on somehow. Do you work with investors as well?
Yes, I do. I'm also a commercial real estate agent.
Mhm.
So I work with residential and commercial, and I have quite a few investor clients that I'm working with right now. I have one in California, one in Houston, one in Washington State,
Mhm.
and one in Connecticut right now that's coming to Memphis buying
Mm,
homes.
nice.
And because Memphis has a lower barrier of entry,
Mhm.
you can still charge premium rents. Unfortunately, people, that's what they're doing. I'm trying to tell you,
Mhm.
but hey, I
Mhm.
work with people that want to work with me. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to
Mhm.
tell you to come buy the properties before they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, but in all actuality, the thing is land ownership, and home ownership, in multiple, multitudes give you that passive income.
Mhm.
And people are always going to need a place to stay.
Yeah.
And in Memphis, I can speak for our market. Land and homes appreciate 1 to 5% every year,
Mhm.
regardless of the market.
Mhm.
So you're going to get a good flow, a return on your money.
Yeah.
You can buy properties here for like 65,000, you know, a
Wow.
100,000. Average home prices here probably like 275 for a good neighborhood.
Wow.
So people are coming here in droves.
Wow. Yeah.
I know the crime is the crime, but it's crime everywhere.
That's right.
So, but it's still a good place to, invest because Memphis is a 54% rental market, unfortunately.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. And that's a high number, a really high number. Um, so talk about, since you said that, talk a little bit about, because you're talking about changing these communities, talk a little bit about what it takes to get that number down. 54% rental market that's high.
It's very high.
Hmm.
Um, due to financial literacy piece, I'm getting out here. I am, trying to do or striving to do more in-person events. I go to networking events. I talk to any and everybody that I can see. And
Hmm.
I also market a lot on my Facebook page, but it's all about the mindset. You know, people, tend to, once they get that, they come to me, they like, oh, I want to fix my credit. I want to be a homeowner. I'm
Hmm.
tired of renting. But once they get that second chance, with another landlord that's going to give them another chance without having to look at their credit, they forget all about it.
Hmm.
And then they turn around, the house gets snatched or something happens. The slumlords, we have a lot of slumlords here, unfortunately,
Hmm.
because the tenant landlord laws are in favor of the landlord.
Yeah.
So, that's another reason why people come here to invest,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Hmm.
So, it's leaving knowing the facts and understanding how you're getting played
Yeah.
is how I'm trying to, I'm striving to get the narrative to change. But it's all about the mindset. It starts there first. You have to be able to see what's going on,
Yeah.
willing to make the sacrifices to change just a little bit, just a little sacrifice. Like I said, it took my friend 10 months, and it
Yeah.
would have been 6 months if she already would have had her savings.
Yeah. And I love, here she said, no, the facts don't get played. I love how you said that. I wanted to mention that too, because getting played, right? And I love that you put it that way, because that's really what it is, right? We've been so psychologically trained in a way that doesn't suit us to leave the legacy that you were talking about earlier on in the show. So I love that you said don't get played. I'm gonna be transparent because I decided to move to a different state. I currently live in North Carolina from New Jersey. So I just signed a 2-year lease because I'm not purchasing yet. I'm waiting for my son to get out of high school before I do, because then I'm not locked into his school district. But I signed a 2-year lease so that I could lock in that price, because I'm like, I don't want to have this increase for the next year. And I know I'm not buying for 2 years out. But I just mentioned that because people have to know their own situations, right? And make sure that they are adhering to it. In 2 years, I know I'm ready to buy, because then I can buy anywhere that I feel like it. But at the same time, you gotta take whatever your current situation is and try to be smart about it. So I wanted to lock in a 2-year lease to not have my rent go up, right?
Right.
To not get played for 2 years in a row, because I'm used to being a homeowner. So I'm like, I want to buy another home. So let me lock this in now and do it this way. But people, you got to look at your situation and do what's best for you in your situation. But at the same time, don't let the system play you. We have to wake up. And I love that you start talking about the education piece and the financial literacy piece. That is the piece where we need to get into these communities and teach people how to invest the money that you were talking about earlier, what the terms are for home ownership. Talk a little bit about that, because people don't even know. First of all, they don't know what affects credit, right? And then they don't even know what the terms are for home ownership. And I know it's different for different situations, but give us a general idea of, kind of what it takes, what those terms are for people to know how to get themselves ready.
So I talk to a lot of lenders, and that's what I love to do, because I love to see it from their perspective, underwriters and lenders, because they are the ones that make or break your loan. Your credit score gets you in the door. The profile starts the conversation. Your profile has to be stacked with certain mix of credit, revolving and installment credit, but they have to be from major banks and credit unions. That's what they're looking for. Not talking anything bad about, the lower tier, credits, because people got to start where they are. But you have to understand they're looking for, I don't know, can I mention names? I don't want
to. In terms of what, like banks or
banks. Can I mention bank names?
Yeah, why not?
Because some people be like, can't mention the name. Okay, so the top tier banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, American Express, those type of banks hold heavy weight on your credit profile. Credit unions like Navy Federal, any local credit union, they are next. They hold heavy weight on your credit profile. So if you have a mix of credit from those institutions, because they have a stringent way of looking at your credit and looking at you, they know that you know how to handle your finances, because they know what their terms are, and they're not going to just lend to anybody. So having those type of banks on your profile, installment loans, I always tell my clients the best way is start with a personal loan, because you don't have the utilization, because the utilization kills your credit score. You can go from a 800 to a 650, you know what I mean, in a matter of 30 to 45 days, you know what I mean, with your utilization. So you have to understand that part of it too. But those top tier banks, having those on your credit profile is what these lenders are looking for. And at a particular age, you can have authorized users. They're frowned upon. But when you become 30 and over, they're very frowned upon. Because it looks like you can't get anything in your name. So having one or two is fine. But if you're like in your 20s, they're like, okay, you had to use it to build your credit, but okay, they're still going to look at what else you have. If you're of a particular age, the lender's going to look at you like, why you got 5 authorized users on your account? Like,
right. And why you got all these co-signers?
Exactly. So that type of thing, and when I mean installment credit, it's like those personal loans, car loans, things like that. Revolving is the credit cards. Stay away from the store cards unless they're attached to a major bank like Wells Fargo or American Express or something like that. But their interest rates are so high. So you want to stay away from them. But if you do it, you need to make sure that it has American Express, Wells Fargo on there, and not just Macy's, because it means nothing.
Yeah.
So, just having the correct profile and with the credit score and plus the savings, you have to have at least 3 months of whatever mortgage you feel like you can afford in your savings, if not more, but at least 3 months. So a combination of, the credit score, the profile, the savings, and the income is what determines your terms for home ownership.
Yeah. And I know even here in North Carolina, so you may as well go out and buy a home, right? Because they want you to have they want you to make 3 times your rent amount per month, right? So, they're making it difficult for people to even go out and rent
Yes.
properties. So, I'm saying that to say people get ready to purchase, right? Because, once you have your terms of your mortgage, you have your terms of your mortgage versus, seeing your rent amounts continue to climb and also having to adhere to their rules in terms of having 3 times your rent amount. So the
And
average
also,
American doesn't really have that. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah.
also, Tracy, think about this. Does your rent go down the more that you pay?
Right.
Or does it go up? Your mortgage goes down the more that you pay. And there's ways to even get that mortgage paid down quicker.
That's right.
By following your amortization schedule.
Great.
And knowing those payments. So, because interest is compounded. Knowing that, you won't have to pay off a mortgage in 30 days. I mean, 30 years. I wish it was 30 days. But
that would be great, right? Buy a house in 30 days.
Right.
I want to give you quick last words because we unfortunately have to end the show. So you're going to have to come back because there's so much to touch on here. I know there's so much. So quick last word before we have to end this.
I just want to say, home ownership is obtainable and you can get there. It just starts with your mindset and educating yourself on how you can get there, because it's not going to take that much of a sacrifice. It's not going to take as long as you think. And the more that you give up your money to other people, making them wealthy, the further the wealth gap is going to be for you and your family. We want to close that wealth gap. And owning assets is the way to do it. Owning homes, owning land, owning assets that's producing, that appreciates, is what is the name of the game. And that's how people could become wealthy. Life insurance policies that gain, I'm not a life insurance agent, but
right.
life insurance that grows, with, and yet you can borrow from, and all these different measures that you can do to build wealth. So there's so much money out here on the table for us to get. So let's get it.
I love it. I love it. And everybody, all of Toria's information is right on the show page, so you can connect with her on any of her social media avenues or her website. We thank you for joining us tonight. We want you to make sure that you come back. I appreciate you, Toria. Thank you for sharing so much knowledge in your space. I love it. And you look amazing, girl. But we will see you all. We will see you all next week right here again on the Whole Living Show at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care. And Toria, don't go anywhere yet.
Bye.